Greetings, everyone. Welcome to what I'm going to call part one of my series called Money, the World's Greatest Hoax. Let me take care of some housekeeping issues first. In my first video, I made some statements. I cited some sources. I didn't show you any documents, and I don't expect you ever to take my word for it. Everything I'm going to tell you can be backed up by impeccable, court-accepted documents of the Federal Reserve System or its member banks. Number one, I talked about the Coinage Mint Act of 1792. I said 1792, which is still the law, and I quoted the Boston Federal Reserve's publication, Liberty and the American Eagle. I hope this comes out. I hope it hold it right. And let's see, can you see that? I can read it, so you must be able to. The second thing I said is, and you recall, I quoted the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, keeping our money healthy. Remember, they prefer healthy money to healthy people. I said on page 6, that document said, and you recall, our system works only with credit. All right. I refer to this publication right here. If I can hold it just right, can you see that? I can barely read that. Lighting is poor. I do a poor job at video creation. I admit that. Do a lousy job editing. And man, once you get them loaded to YouTube, now you got to administer them. Okay. Now, I've known this for 30 years. I got to give credit where credit's due. I don't know if people know Rob Skiba. Does a wonderful job. And he has a cool little line. He says, I consider myself a researcher, in that I research what other people have already searched out before me. Fine. I'll accept that same title. The bulk of this came out in the 70s by a man named Merrill Jenkins Sr., where all credit is due. He did the heavy lifting. I never knew the man. But I did know well two of his disciples, Dave Wilbur from St. Louis and Bruce McCarthy from the state of Maine, the Maine man. Talked to him numerous times, hundreds of emails, personal phone conversations. All right, at any rate, today what we're going to talk about is a little publication called Modern Money Mechanics. You can see that. Excellent. It's from the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. Now, if you're going to order this document, be careful that you get the October 1982 revised version, because they revised this document since, and they've taken out some major points that I have in this document that you won't get unless you get this revised date. This document, by the way, Modern Money Mechanics, was written in 1961. I'm trying to make these videos shorter so I don't bore you. Attention spans are short. I understand that. All right, page 2. I'm just going to do some brief, quick reading to you. And before I do, you know, I've been at this for 30 years, half my adult life. And I talk to people all the time. And I said, hey, how come it doesn't bother you that there's a select elite group that gets to create the medium exchange that you and I must labor for or sell something of our wealth to obtain? And, you know, they just look at you and go, well, somebody's got to do it. I mean, can you imagine that? There is a group of people that live amongst us. They get everything for nothing, give nothing for it. We have to labor for it or sell our wealth, and then we have to go to the marketplace and try to bid with them, and they outbid us every time with what they get for nothing that we must work for. Let that point sink in. There's something terribly wrong with it, and what's even more wrong is people don't seem to care. All right. Modern Money Mechanics, page 2. Money is such a routine part of everyday living that its existence and acceptance are ordinarily taken for granted. A user may sense. Psychological, you might sense it, huh? That money must come into being either automatically as a result of economic activity or as an outgrowth of some government operation. But just how this happens all too often remains a mystery. Now, who doesn't like a mystery? Page 3. Mystery solved. Check this out. The actual process of money creation takes place in the banks. Well, wait a minute. I thought banks take in depositors' funds and then they lend them out at interest, and you know, the amount of loans they can make is dependent upon how much depositor funds they have. They create the money. They create it right at the time you pretend to borrow it. Check this out. In the real world, it's fantasy. In the absence of legal reserve requirements, now I'm interrupting here because people like Brian from High Impact Flicks or blogs would tell you that That's the fractional reserve system, and I'm telling you, it's 2019. It's the 14th of January, and it's called fictional reserve requirements. They have nothing in reserve. They have nothing on deposit, as we soon will find out. In the absence of legal reserve requirements, banks can build up deposits by increasing loans. Did you get that? I'm from North Dakota. They raise cattle, all kinds of livestock out here, and I've seen deposits behind the barn. And I'm going to tell you something. If that rancher can increase his deposits by lending them out to his neighbor to fertilize their gardens, that dog don't hunt. And this is hocus pocus. All right. So now on the same page, page 2, what makes money valuable? In the United States, neither paper currency nor deposits have value as commodities. Intrinsically, a dollar bill, quote unquote, is just a piece of paper. Deposits are merely book entries. Coins do have some intrinsic value, but as metal, but generally far less than their face amount. How much less? About 97% less. And we'll get down in further episodes of That is the Debt. About 3% of metallic value compared to our old 1964 and below silver coins that had 90% wealth in them, silver in coin form. All right, here comes the big question. What then makes these instruments, checks, paper money, and coins acceptable at face value in payment of all debts and for other monetary uses? They're asking the question. What? And remember, this was written in 1961. What in the hell makes you take these things? Here we go. They answer their own questions. Mainly, it is the confidence people have that they will be able to exchange such money for other financial assets and real goods and services whenever they choose to do so. A confidence game. They admit it. What is a mechanic in Las Vegas? He's skilled at dealing from the bottom of the deck. A confidence game, it says right there, and people don't get it. All right, this is partly a matter of law. Currency has been designated legal tender. Yeah, money by decree. The government says you got to take it. By the government, that is. It must be accepted by creditors in payment of monetary debts. It pays nothing. And paper currency is a liability of the government. Really? Transaction deposits are liabilities of the depository institutions, which stand ready to convert such deposits into currency or transfer their ownership at the request of depositors. Here we go, people. Confidence in these forms of money also seems to be tied in some way to the fact that assets exist on the books of the government or central bank and the depository institutions equal to the amount of money outstanding. Ready for this? Pay close attention. Even though most of these assets themselves are no more than pieces of paper, such as customers' promises to repay depository institutions, and it is well understood that money is not redeemable in them. Is it well understood? You understand it well? I doubt it. Or you wouldn't let them get away with this scam. Okay, I'm already up to 8 minutes on this video. I want to keep it short, attention span. I got all that. I'll leave a link for Rob Skiba in the comments or in the section below. And please feel free to comment. I ask that you subscribe and share and stand by for part 2, because I'll see you then. And we'll take these publications. Oh, and I will bring out a letter as soon as I find it, from the early 1990s when I sought out who is the Monetary Authority of the United States, and a letter from the Federal Reserve System in Washington, D.C. They are the Monetary Authority. So you can believe whoever else you want. The Monetary Authority will tell you the truth if you're smart enough to read it and comprehend it. Till next time, thanks for watching.